Welcome back to another episode of From the Shed End podcast with myself, Theo, and the other Theo. How you doing, first of all?
I'm good, Theo. Thanks. Always in a good mood on Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to hopefully picking up 3 points at the Molineux. And pretty much almost in exactly 2 weeks, I'll be running my fourth marathon in Japan. So looking forward to that. The training's been tough, but I'm slowly going to start to taper it down now. But I think I've got one last big run scheduled for tomorrow morning. And then next weekend, I'm off to Tokyo and then Osaka. So yeah, it's going to be a busy few weeks. But yeah, I'll make sure to kind of stay in line with everything Chelsea related whilst I'm out there. But how are you doing? How's your week been so far?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I was saying to you before, it's been busy, but I don't know why it's been busy. So
Mm,
I can't actually tell you what I've been doing. It's just one of those weeks where everything just rolls into one. And before you know, it's Friday, match day tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to as always. Lots to get into in this episode. Lots to get into. Let's go back to Tuesday because I think there's been a massive talking point in terms of um our League Cup exit, semi-final, second leg at the Emirates. Um, Liam Rosenior tried to change things, and I feel like he put the handbrake on for Chelsea to try and salvage something in this game. But I felt like he forgot to take the handbrake off at some point during the game, even with the subs with Esteval Cole Palmer coming in. But um, was it a moment thrown away by Chelsea and Liam Rosenior to try and get ourselves into the final and try and get some silverware this season?
yeah, this result infuriated me. It really, really infuriated me. Not so much more the result, but more the manner we played and the manner we lost. I mean, if we rewind, you're in a semi-final over the League Cup. Maybe people would just say it's a Thai energy drink cup, but for us, it's still silverware. There's a trip to Wembley that's on the back end of this, and we lost the first leg only 3-2. So you
Mm.
kind of still in it. All you need to do is win the game by one goal, and you can take it to extra time, win the game by 2 goals, and you qualify and you're in the final. But I do maybe want to give Ben Rossini the benefit of the doubt that there were key players like Pedro Neto, Reece James missing. Jamie Gittens, albeit maybe he's not a key player, but as soon as he's missing, we lack a lot of depth on the wings, perhaps. And then you have players like Palmer, who we know we've spoken at length about his fitness concerns. He is not 100% fully fit yet. He will not be 100% fully fit until he gets that surgery. And Esteval, who's just returned from compassionate leave, maybe he wasn't in the right mindset or to start the game or play the full 90 minutes. But yeah, like I said, the manner we lost this was so disappointing because I mean it was so tight and tense. We had only a few chances. I think we had 14 attempts and only two of those were on
Mhm.
target. But like Paul Merson kind of summed up, it was such a lackluster kind of approach from Chelsea. It was very passive, and it was no kind of urgency. Given that we needed a goal, Arsenal were kind of comfortable, to kind of just play the football that they played and let Chelsea do what they did because we never fully kind of. I think it was just maybe was it an Enzo Fernandez attempt, and I think one other player had a shot on target.
Mm.
But other than that, no player kind of really had a clear cut chance, and for me, that is really worrying. How Rosenior set up the team, it seemed like it was it Liam Delap right wing, Enzo Fernandez left wing with Caicedo and Andrey Santos in a double pivot. The lineup didn't fully make sense. Gusto was quite poor, gave the ball away far too many times. Yeah, it was a really, really disappointing performance. And for me, it's when you lose a game, when you need to win a game by a goal, you need to score. You just got to throw the kitchen sink at it. And we just didn't do that. We really didn't do that. And I think Arsenal were pretty surprised given how kind of passive we were and how little we created. And it was just such a disappointing game. I mean, sure, we could have maybe said, like, had we won that game 2 or 3-0, Rosenior was a genius and the way he played made sense. But it's the fact we didn't even score a single goal.
Mm.
So, it really backfired and it didn't really reflect well on how Rosenior wanted to line up. Um, yeah, what else can I say? I mean, I don't really want to talk about who scored for Arsenal because I can guarantee you, had we recorded that evening or the following morning, I think this video would have been kind of taken down because I was in a filthy mood, a really, really bad mood. I've only just calmed down now, but yeah, like you kind of summed it up in your post match reaction, just him pointing to the badge after everything we gave to him, how the fans backed him through the moments he wasn't playing particularly well. For those maybe who didn't catch the game, I'm talking about Kai Havertz. And yeah, it's just really, really disappointing. And it's not the first time he did it. I think, was it 2 seasons ago when he scored a brace against us? He celebrated. And
Mm.
so clearly a player where Chelsea doesn't really have a special place in his heart anymore. And I think he's dead to us Chelsea fans now. which is a shame given he was a player who created such a historic moment for us in Porto. But now this player is absolutely dead to me, and every time he comes back to Stamford Bridge, he's going to be very hostile for him from now on.
And I think, I mean, I put up a clip on our social media, and it's obviously got a lot of Arsenal fans in there. But I think, look, I don't think, look, Chelsea fans obviously weren't happy with Kai Havertz when Kai Havertz was at the club. He didn't perform to the standards based on how much we paid for him. He didn't live up to expectations that we wanted, and there were moments where, as Chelsea fans, we wanted him to do well. I can only talk for myself, and I know you probably in the same camp, but we wanted him to do well. I don't think there's Chelsea fans that just initially gave up with Kai Havertz. It wasn't just he came into the club and we didn't want him there. We wanted him to play well, even after the Champions League goal, winning the Champions League. We wanted him to go on, kick on, and progress, but he just never did it. So, I mean, that goal hurt us. I mean, that goal. What's annoying about that Arsenal game is that as much as we were trying to push people forward, and we got to like the 93rd, 94th minute whenever the goal went in, 90 plus 7 minutes. We were trying to, we were pushing people up the pitch, but we weren't doing anything when we got there. It was almost like we were just passing the ball around the edge of the box for Arsenal, and rightfully so, they beat us on the counter attack. But I'm not annoyed at Liam Rosenior picking out, the three centre backs and then trying to play Gusto and Cucurella as wing backs. I thought that was probably the best option, a very safe option. I think that's where my praise for him stops, though, because I think you've got three in the midfield of Santos, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, which I thought was a brilliant three. You could probably have, either one in the base, which would be maybe Caicedo, and you have Santos and Enzo playing slightly higher up. But then I was expecting to see João Pedro and Liam Delap playing as strikers in that game, and to see them both, to see Enzo on the left and Delap on the right, I was a bit like, it just doesn't make any sense what we're trying to do here. And you said before the game, we spoke about the lineup before kickoff, and I remember you saying there's no width, there's no attacking wingers, there's nothing going down the channels really, and there wasn't. There wasn't. It was more passing from the back, passing to the side, passing back to the goalkeeper. It was just one of those games where I think it showed a lot of inexperience from Liam Rosenior. I think in a semi-final, I'll ask you this question. For me, in a semi-final, Cole Palmer, Esteval have to play. I understand Cole Palmer is not fully fit. I understand he needs surgery. We spoke about that before. And I understand Esteval, for compassionate reasons, missed a couple of training sessions and had to fly back to Brazil. But if they're on the bench, and goes back to the motto I think I've used on here before, if they're on the bench, you've got to use them, in my opinion. Do you think that's harsh criticism, or do you disagree with that maybe bringing them on 60 minutes didn't actually give a negative impact? It was actually the right thing to do at the time. Give Cole Palmer half an hour to try and change the game, Esteval the same. Or do you think we should have started them from the very beginning and see where we got with the game there? Would it have been a totally different game?
I think hindsight's a beautiful thing, but I completely agree. I think if they're on the bench, they should be at least playing 45 minutes. We saw how impactful the substitutions were against West Ham. And I feel like that could have been maybe a half-time substitution, especially when things didn't really go to plan in that first half. We don't really know what's fully happened behind the scenes with Esteval and the logistics of his traveling back from Brazil. But if he flew back from Brazil maybe early that morning or late last night, maybe he was still a bit fatigued and tired, and it was deemed that he couldn't play the full 90 minutes, or he only had maybe 30 minutes in the tank for him to play. But like you said, I think the motto we always say in this podcast is, if you're on the bench, you should be starting. And I know Liam Rosenior defended his tactical choices, emphasizing that coaching decisions are quite easy to criticize post-match, but he trusted his players to respond dynamically. But unfortunately, it didn't kind of pay off in this instance. And I think fans are entitled at times to criticize decisions from the manager, from the players. And that's why we pay our money to go see these games. We pay our subscriptions for BT Sport, TNT, Sky as well. But yeah, in this case, it wasn't a result. And it does also show that there's still such a big gap between maybe a Manchester City and an Arsenal and us, kind of sitting in maybe fourth or fifth place. And it's all good picking up the points against West Ham, Brentford, and the other teams. We've Crystal Palace. But if we can't kind of challenge these big teams that are sitting at the top of the table, then we're still going to really struggle to even break into the top four or challenge for silverware this season.
I felt like Liam Rosenior was under a lot of pressure during the game, before the game. after the game, post match, it was the first time, and I think I might have said this to you after the game. It was the first time I felt he'd lost a bit of that sort of, positivity, and everything's rosy. The sun's always shining in his world. It felt like a little bit like he lost a little bit. The mask was slipping slightly during the. I mean, even before the game, there's a lot of comments. This is what's on the back pages of, as we're recording this on Friday. The back pages today of most newspapers is the fact that he's criticised Arsenal for the lack of respect and disrespect shown during the warm-ups. I think it was one of the goalkeeping coaches for Arsenal, which again, I've been to matches, you've been to matches. This happens quite often where they try and do the long ball, boot the ball up and down the pitch in their half, and it somehow ended up in our half. And Liam Rosenior wasn't happy with that. But even post-match, there was comments that he was just making, and you know, wasn't trying to throw out excuses, but he did say that in the first leg, certain players were missing due to illness and all the rest of it. But do you feel that Liam Rosenior in this game, I don't want to say failed the test, because I said it was a big test, but do you feel that he maybe he has to know when to pick his battles, especially with the media? I think maybe the media is a big thing. You get them on board. There's kind of a bit, give you a bit more time, a bit more leeway. But it felt like the last couple, even in the press conference yesterday, he was asked a number of times about Arsenal. Do you feel that he's just got to be mindful that this isn't Liga where you can probably go away and be Strasbourg. This is Chelsea where everything is under the microscope.
100%. I feel like the PR stunt worked for the first few weeks. We both loved his initial press conferences and what he said and how he reacted with the media's questions. But now actions speak louder than words, and he's got to kind of prove that in these big games he can kind of handle the pressure. And yeah, like you mentioned, he was quite critical of Arsenal staff who were allegedly encroaching on Chelsea's warm-up space, and called this not, it wasn't football etiquette, according to him, though he insisted there was no bad blood with him and Arsenal after the match. But I feel like it's small things maybe he spotted that the cameras were on him and he just wanted a bit more of attention, or, how Guardiola does it post-match. And he is still very young, so maybe he's kind of idolized these other managers and is trying to replicate what they do once the cameras are pointed at their face. But I think what really kind of irritated me was what he had to say after the match about his team being the better team, how he was really proud, how well they played. You can't be proud of your team if you get knocked out the semi-finals and don't score a single goal in the away leg. And like you perfectly summarized it in your reaction, let's remember that Jose Mourinho, I think, famously said in 2019 that when you start accepting defeats just because your team played well and just because your players gave it their best, a performance for people to be proud of, I think when you get used to it, that's when a big club stops being a big club. And now we're accepting defeats because supposedly we played well and the players gave it their all. Then for me, that means, are we no longer a big club? Are we now one of those like teams that just fights for top 4, top 6? And are we outside of the traditional big kind of 4 of English football now? It seems like we're going down that route, which is a rotten damn shame in a way.
It is, and we've look. I mean, this is the BlueCo era is nearly 4 years into what should be progression, and we're not seeing that at all. There's a lot of talk about the medical staff having a massive input into team selections, and that's one of the things that even when Enzo Maresca was here, we got to see some of the medical staff on the bench trying to sort of tell Maresca Cole Palmer must be rested, Reece James the same. It feels like that is still happening to a certain extent with Liam Rosenior, because we were told, and we'll get on to Wolves later, but we've been told that Cole Palmer and Esteban are fit for that game to feature at the weekend, but we were told that they weren't fully fit to play in the game against Arsenal, which is for me the bigger game out of the two. I think you would probably take the risk against Arsenal and maybe rest them against Wolves, who are fighting relegation as it stands at the moment. So do you think with look, I mean, the medical team obviously know better than me and you. That's why they're in the job they are. But do you feel that there is too much involvement from other areas of Chelsea, which is now influencing the team selection?
I think it's no secret. I think that kind of was apparent when both Pochettino and Maresca departed the clubs. They kind of said that there is a lot of conflict and a lot of kind of overlap with the decision making that the medical staff and the manager or the coach want to show when picking teams. And it seems like sometimes Cole Palmer's ability to play or to start matches is outside of Rosenior's control now. And same thing maybe with Esteval, given what happened. I feel Pedro Neto and Reece James not even being on the bench maybe indicates that they probably not fit enough to start against Wolves. I think yesterday, Rosenior said yesterday was a recovery day for the lads that played on Tuesday, but he's going to assess Neto and Reece James in the next couple of training sessions to see if they're fit for tomorrow's 3 p.m. game at the Molineux. But yeah, I think things like even Lavia, sometimes he comes back from injuries, then he's injured again. Is this kind of the medical staff not being cautious with when players are good to return? Are they being rushed back? I feel like we're a bit more cautious now of that approach. And if anything, players are maybe kept outside of off the pitch for maybe a bit too long. I mean, I'm almost sure we saw Dário Essugo back in training, and now he's injured again.
Yeah.
Which maybe just kind of contradicts what I just said, because maybe he was told he could train again and then picked up an injury again. So yeah, it definitely feels like the medical staff are getting involved. But if they are getting involved, you kind of do hope it's for the right reasons. I mean, they are the experts, so they know the human bodies. But at the same time, it's frustrating if you see a player on the bench, then like we said, he's good enough to start, and he's not starting. Then that's when it starts to get frustrating for the fans.
100%, 100%. I think that the final thing really to probably say on the Carabao Cup is, and I don't know if you know this, but £100,000 is the prize money for winning the Carabao Cup, and there's been a lot of talk about, is it worthwhile from a Chelsea financial point of view, whether it's worthwhile winning the cup. We as fans, we know the answer to that is going to be yes, 100% every single time. But from a financial point of view, does it feel like BlueCo are more invested in top four because it pays better and you get into the Champions League and it generates more money and all the rest of it? Do you feel like that is the reason why? Because I feel like the medical staff have been dictated from BlueCo down to the medical team to coach and coaching assistants. But do you think that's probably one of the reasons why as well, that 100 grand it's nothing to them? 100 grand is a couple of pence. Is it a
It
case
is.
that they actually just want the big money at the top?
Yeah, but also as these guys, remember, they're not football owners; they are businessmen. And if you're business you've got a business brain, you're clued on when it comes to kind of earning revenue, earning money. There are small wins along the way, and they haven't done those. There's still no front of shirt sponsor on our kits, which is something that could have been just giving us kind of money as we play. And like you said, I mean, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, he's bringing money, revenue, 100 million. It's still a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, and it could have kind of contributed to maybe wages or summer signings. And I just feel like sometimes their priorities aren't fully kind of switched on, and even if they have a bigger picture further down the line, there's kind of small incremental wins you can kind of gain along the way. And there's another stat that I thought was quite worrying. It's Chelsea have lost both legs of an EFL Cup semi-final tie for the first time since 1990-91 season, but I think we must have lost both legs against Sheffield Wednesday. So historically in the semi-finals of the League Cup, we've done very, very well, or we've at least won one of the two legs. But in this instance, we weren't able to win a single one. And sure, Arsenal are above us right now, but how they played on Tuesday, for me, they didn't play us off the players particularly well. I think they were there for the taking. And had we just been maybe a bit more kind of urgent, a bit more, shown a bit more kind of desire, a bit more hunger, I think we could have definitely at least gotten a goal and taken that game to extra time.
I suppose the bonus for Arsenal is they didn't need to press forward.
No.
If you're 3-2, you can sit back, invite the pressure. Which you look at the team, how we set up in hindsight, like you said, 5 at the back, very defensive. The midfield was very sort of stop start. You had one of your strikers on the right wing, you had one of your midfielders on the left, so they probably thought, actually, we can stick Gyökeres up the front and he'll just do a bit of running, get some cardio. And Arsenal, one of the best centre-back partnerships in the Premier League at the moment, they probably thought it's gonna have to take something special to get a goal at the Emirates from Chelsea's point of view. And they, to be honest, they played the better game than we did. I know it wasn't an entertaining game, but they got what they needed out of it. They're now in the final and so on. So we'll have to see how that pans out for them. But let's move on. Let's not wish them luck, which I nearly did. Let's injury crisis. Let's talk about the injury crisis, because we got some updates around Dário Essugo, who now looks like he's going to be out for a very long time. Next couple of weeks at least, until the end of March. Jamie Gittens, who has been confirmed with a hamstring injury, a tear to his hamstring, which again will probably offset him for maybe at least 4 to 6 weeks. And Romeo Lavia has suffered another setback, which will also keep him out for more weeks on the touchline. At what point do we start questioning Romeo Lavia and the signing of Romeo Lavia? I think I said in yesterday's video, I still don't think he's completed 90 minutes for us. He's been here since 2023. So you're talking almost 3 years as a Chelsea player. I think Dário Essugo, if I remember correctly, has played 62 minutes for us over 2 games. So at what point do we start questioning Lavia more so than Essugo? But it doesn't look like a good signing for Romeo Lavia.
No, I remember when we did our kind of ranking all our BlueCo signings, must have been about a year ago. I think we had Lavia in our flop category, given how little football he's played. He was just a one substitute appearance in his first season at Chelsea before getting injured again. And yeah, he's got injured in, I think, the first 10 minutes of that game in Baku against Carabao back in November. And like you said, there's still no date on when he's due to return. And it's the way he gets injured. And sometimes it's not even on the pitch. I mean, bar that one against Carabao, I think a lot of these injuries are coming in training.
Yeah.
I think they're coming kind of elsewhere. But yeah, it's really, really frustrating because he is such a good player when he is on the pitch, and he offers so much to our midfield. And there were times, I think, when we were playing, I think, was it Caicedo right back with Lavia in midfield alongside Enzo Fernandez under Maresca, and he is quite a versatile player as well. And he's still very, very young, so I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And we did see how maybe things can kind of turn around. In Reece James's case, for instance, I think we both kind of were sat here maybe a year and a half ago saying we can't see Reece James being our long-term captain, being the future of the club, given how injury-prone he is. But so maybe there is hope for Lavia now. But at the same time, it's just like we spent big money on him. I think it was 55 million or so, or it might have even been 45. I know he wears the number 45, which always seems to be a reminder of how much we paid for him as well. But yeah, it's such a frustrating incident. And as soon as you get two of your midfielders injured, you only have three natural centre mids in Andrey Santos, Enzo Fernandez, and Moises Caicedo. I'd like to see maybe Reggie Walsh get more minutes in midfield, but I think that's going to be very unlikely now that we're, our Carabao Cup campaign's finished.
Yeah,
we've got, I think, Hull City in the FA Cup, but that's kind of a must-win game as well now for us to want to progress to the round of 16. But yeah, really frustrating in Lavia's case, and like I mentioned, it's the manner he's getting injured and the uncertainty around when he's due to return as well.
It is worrying. It's for me. It's a massive problem now, because I think at the time as well, did we even need to buy him? I think is the question I'd ask myself. I think we obviously had. He did he come in that same window as Caicedo?
He did, yeah.
He
We
came in
had
that same
Gallagher
window,
in the
didn't we?
team.
We had Gallagher at the time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else played in midfield.
We had a couple of players in there. I think we had at least three, and I think we had signed Andrey Santos that or was that the season after? I feel like it was either that window or the season after. We signed him, but he didn't join us. He didn't join us that window, did he? I don't think.
I think he was on loan at Strasbourg at the time, and I remember him getting injured again after that Crystal Palace cameo meant we recalled Cesare Casadei from his loan at Leicester.
That was it.
So there's always
we had cover.
We
had cover. We didn't need to go and buy Lavia. I don't think anyway. And I'll go back to that point around still needing a recognised sort of number 9, traditional number 9 striker, goalkeeper. Still talk about centre backs, don't we? Did we really need to go and buy? Look, I agree with you 100%. He is on his day, and we haven't got to see much at Chelsea, but we know the qualities that he can give us. We just haven't seen it enough, and I think that for me, that the worry is that the age that he is, the injuries and the amount of injuries that he's picking up, and they're all similar injuries as well. I just question. Look, Reece James proved me wrong, but I just question: will we ever get to see the levels of Lavia, or do the owners at some point think, right, we're going to try and get him back to a level of fitness and sell him before, the money starts dropping on his valuation?
Yeah, we mentioned, I think, on our recording last week when we spoke about Cole Palmer, that if you're a really good footballer, if you're lucky, you get 3 or 4 World Cups throughout your career. There's a World Cup this summer. Lavia's not going to be in that squad for that World Cup.
No.
And that's him missing a World Cup. Next World Cup's in 4 years, in 2030. And then, you never know what happens between now and 4 years' time. So yeah, he's missing a huge kind of opportunity to kind of cement himself in the Chelsea team and on the international stage as well. And like you said, when do we just kind of tell ourselves this didn't work out? Maybe cut our losses, try to sell him at a loss, because I don't think we're going to recoup anywhere near the amount we spent on him, given his injury record. And that looks like maybe we've got maybe another year of maybe trying to persist with Lavia. But if we still don't get minutes for Lavia on the pitch or see him play a consistent game time, then that might be the unfortunate solution.
Or maybe a loan. I'm thinking. I mean,
Alone,
a
yeah, yeah.
loan could be, away from the Premier League, maybe a bit of a slower paced league somewhere. Build up his fitness, try and get himself back. You've said it many times on here. How many loans have been successful for us? Probably not many. So um, that worries me. Sending him out on loan 'cause we probably never see him again. So we'll have to see. But Dário Essugo is someone who I remember talking about in the summer of the Club World Cup, thinking we've got ourselves a really good player here, and I was excited to see what he could do in the season ahead. But he just again hasn't had the best of luck. Big injury setback. To the injury that he's already had. Um, I mean, look, it doesn't sound so bad for him. I sort of panicked when we heard about March, and then I forgot we're in the middle of February already. Anyway, so it's not like it's the end of the world. But Dário Essugo being out, I think it is till March, or up until March. Massive loss, but do you reckon if we can get him fit, at least as another player, another body back in that midfield for the busy end, the sort of business end of the season?
Absolutely. I think as soon as you get like 2 or 3 injuries, all of a sudden our squad looks quite thin in terms of
Yeah.
depth and quality. And it's so much game time for the likes of Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo. We're lucky now we have Andrey Santos who can play the odd game, and he has looked quite good when he has played. I mean, it's a shame for Essugo as well, because I don't think he's played a single minute of domestic football. I think all of his football came at the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard for us to actually kind of judge him as a player because we haven't seen much of him yet. But I think the moments we did see him at the Club World Cup, he looked quite a tidy player, and we clearly do rate him. And we signed him from Sporting CP whilst he was on loan at Las Palmas as well, and he was very, very rated in the Portuguese league as well. But yeah, unfortunate one, because I do sometimes say of these types of players is if you get injured in your first season, it's very hard for you to then break through and make an impact in your second
Yeah.
season. And there's a high chance you might get sold or loaned because you would have bought in someone by the time you're fit who can replace you and do the job. So yeah, I think a very uncertain future for him, but I do like his profile, and hopefully come March he can get some game time in the FA Cup, Champions League, and Premier League, hopefully as well.
Yeah, I was about to say the Champions League, but yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to think about that after Tuesday, but yeah. I mean, look, I like him. I liked when he was playing. I know we only got to see glimpses in the Club World Cup, but he looks like a good player, good enough player to fill in for the likes of Caicedo or Enzo Fernandez when we need it. I suppose a luxury that we've got at the moment. You mentioned the three midfielders, or traditional midfielders in Santos, Fernandez, and Caicedo. We've got Reece James that can fill in there. We've got Achiampong that can fill in there. I don't think it's the solution to the problem, but I think as a makeshift and covering over a crack, I think for now, Rosenior is probably going to have to resort to that at some point. I don't think you can have the likes of Enzo and Caicedo playing, 3-4 games on the bounce. He obviously trusts Santos from his days at Strasbourg, but again, there's going to be games where you're just going to need a little bit more. I don't know what that word is. Just a bit more of a solid player in there. A Reece James who can track back and help defend, but also is able to ping the ball forward and deliver the ball forward as well. We'll have to see. But Jamie Gittens, another one. I mean, look, we've just got rid of Tyrique George. We're going to talk about the transfers in a minute. Tyrique George has left the club. Raheem Sterling's been paid up. Mikhailo Mudryk is getting further bans on games that he's playing. I don't know if you heard about. So I don't know what's going on with him, but we're light on the ground. I think we've got Garnacho, Neto. I think are probably the most favoured, considerable choices on the left hand side now. But Jamie Gittens out. I mean, hamstring tears can be anywhere 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how bad the tear is. But it's a massive blow for him. I think he's not really had the best season so far at Chelsea. What's your thoughts on the injury, and was it a mistake getting rid of Tyrique George now when you look back on where we are?
Yeah, I think as soon as Gittens kind of fell to the ground against West Ham, and when I saw him walk on the sidelines, I knew straight away it was a bad injury because he looked really in a lot of discomfort. And I think it's very unfortunate for him because he hasn't had a great season. And I think it was really his chance maybe now that we're struggling with depth in our kind of the winger departments that he could have maybe gotten a game time, especially we've got, I think it's our next 3 games are Wolves, Leeds and Hull in the FA Cup. These are games where you would have hopefully played a Jamie Gittens. But yeah, it just hasn't been a great season for him. And now we're really, really thin. You mentioned Sterling, Mudryk, Tyrique George no longer at the club. Facundo Buonanotte is also, had his loan cancelled and loaned to Leeds from Brighton. So yeah, I do feel like Neto and Garnacho are going to be playing a lot of football between now and the end of the season potentially.
Do you trust either of them to perform on a consistent basis? That's as I look at Garnacho, and I'm still thinking back to West Ham, and I know he played well in the Arsenal game. And look, Garnacho is still, I think, of mixed opinions amongst the Chelsea fans. But I just don't. And Neto hasn't played the best as well. He's had moments where he looks really good, and then he's had some really poor performances. But I just think, again, have we sort of shut ourselves in the foot by not ever thinking about integrating Raheem Sterling, not giving Tyrique George an opportunity, not keeping Buonanotte? I know now I'm talking because in hindsight and whatever else, but I just think Tyrique George, I loved him in the Conference League. I remember saying how he was an amazing player and he's got a bright future. Have we made a mistake just allowing someone who's from the academy, a product of Chelsea, to leave the football club?
I think potentially that's a BlueCo decision. They see Tyrique George as pure profit, so maybe they're trying to put him in the shop window and hoping that Everton activate that option to buy clause in his contract come the summer. But in hindsight, we could have really done with someone like Tyrique George now, because I do like Pedro Neto a lot. I think Garnacho has shown in glimpses that he can be a very good winger, but it's still very, very inconsistent with his performances. But can you really tell me that Neto and Garnacho are an upgrade on Sancho and Madueke? I'm not entirely sure. I do like
even Sterling. I mean, I'd probably put Sterling
above
them. I would.
Sterling, Mudryk, all of them, and I do like Pedro Neto's work rate, and I feel like he does get a bit of harsh criticism from some Chelsea fans. But what does frustrate me with the two of those players is they do struggle sometimes to really drive the ball forward, take on their man. As soon as you have someone like Esteval, you just see him, the first thing he wants to do is get the ball towards the goal, burst into the penalty box. He can be a little selfish at times, but sometimes you need to be selfish if you want to be a good goal scorer. And we always say, like, these Chelsea players just need to shoot more. They need to take a chance on goal. Esteval does that. He tests the goalkeeper, he gets his shots on target. Whereas Pedro Neto and Garnacho, they drive the ball forwards, then they just look to their left and they look to their right, and then they pass the ball backwards at times. But it's going to be a big struggle, and I think that's why maybe Rosenior was testing out other options on, as right mid or right wing against Arsenal midweek.
Could be an opportunity. I know we've got some really good players in our dev squad, our development squad as well. This could be Rosenior likes young players as well, so this could be an opportunity to bring someone out of the youth setup. If only we had Rio Engonoma still. I mean, if we had him, maybe the solution to all the problems that we have. I know we've got the tribunal's just been done. I think we've got 6.2 million, I think, or 6.4 million from a tribunal. We've got 20% sell on clause in that now. But I just think, again, another player that I know he got tapped up, but another player that we could do with so much now. He's got so much quality, and it almost reminds me of an Esteval. Always wants to get the ball into the box, tries too much sometimes, but a player that I think Rosenior would probably love to have at his disposal now at Chelsea, which is very unfortunate because he doesn't. But let's quickly talk about some transfers, some incomings and outgoings, because I know there's been a lot of activity on sort of the build up to Monday, which was the transfer deadline day, 7 p.m. on Monday, just gone. Let's talk quickly Mamadou Sarr, Aaron Anselmino, because that just felt like a bit of a chaotic period purely for Aaron Anselmino. I think he probably felt he was coming back to walk out at Stamford Bridge and hear the liquidator, and unfortunately he's gone back to France. What's your thoughts on that in terms of the way it all unfolded and where we are now?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this last week. I think Anselmino is really, really frustrated at the situation because he was having a great spell out on loan in Germany with Dortmund. He was really liked by the players, the fans, the coaches, but supposedly Chelsea weren't happy with how Dortmund were always trying to sign him permanently. and Chelsea really value him long term. But then if we do value him long term, why are we not recalling him to play in the first team and keeping Mamadou Sarr at Strasbourg? But maybe Rosenior really values Mamadou Sarr, given he worked with him last season. He just won the AFCON with Senegal.
I think he was captain at Strasbourg as well, wasn't he?
He was captain. I think you're right. Yeah, still very young and AFCON champion now. And I see the photos of him with his AFCON kind of celebration of all the Chelsea players. And yeah, so he's the one who's ended up being recalled, and then as a kind of token of appreciation, I suppose, towards Strasbourg, we've sent them Anselmino out on loan. But
here you go, have this one.
yeah, it's almost like I mentioned last week, it's almost like we're human trafficking at this stage with some of these Chelsea players. But yeah, I feel like, I'm not sure you got to see the photo of Anselmino holding up his Strasbourg shirt, but it just definitely felt like a forced smile, because I could tell he just did not want to be there. And he just, no disrespect to Strasbourg, but it is a downgrade when you go from Dortmund competing in the Champions League to Strasbourg competing in the Conference League. But hopefully it does help with his development. He gets more minutes than maybe he was at Dortmund, and hopefully Mamadou Sarr does play a part for us between now and the end of the season, because otherwise this whole kind of loan musical chairs would be an absolute disaster for us. I've got here like a bit of a summary of all the players we've brought in and the players that we've sold or we've loaned out. So we signed a left back from Sheffield Wednesday on a permanent deal quite late in January called Yisa Alau. I don't know too much about him. Obviously recalled Mamadou Sarr from Strasbourg, recalled Teddy Sharman-Lowe from his loan at Bolton, and he seems to be like the goalkeeper now that's on the bench.
I think he was on the bench midweek.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused by that, because I know Jurgensen's maybe injured or not fully fit, but surely you have maybe Gaga Slanina on the bench, perhaps, or
I think he's on his way out.
Yeah, maybe on his way out. Maybe the next one to go to Strasbourg to replace Penders. Caleb Wiley has been recalled from his loan.
I still don't know anything. I remember talking about him when we did the BlueCo. I still don't know who he is, but I think he's American.
American right back, I think.
Yeah.
Got that right. And then obviously we recalled Anselmino from Dortmund to then reloan him to Strasbourg. Players out. We've spoken about Raheem Sterling, who's been released from his contract. Leo Castledine, permanent move to Middlesbrough for around 1 million. Atu Amper's moved to, he was a good player. I think he got minutes, I think, under Pochettino at times, I think. But yeah. Atu Amper moved to Stoke for a reported £3 million fee. Buonanotte, obviously, loan ended and returned to Brighton, then loaned to Leeds. Kendry Paez, obviously, his loan was stopped, so called short at Strasbourg and was loaned out to River Plate, not until the end of the season, but until at the end of 2026. Tyrique George. Tyrique George, we mentioned, loaned to Everton the remainder of the season with an option to buy. Axel Disasi, we've mentioned him a lot on the podcast recently. He's been loaned to West Ham. That happened quite late on deadline day. And then David Datcher Fofana, I forgot about him. I really did forget about him. He's been loaned to Strasbourg. I'm not sure if Omega's injured, but I think maybe
he's
just
coming
offer
back.
some,
He's coming back from
some cover in there, the offensive line. But yeah, a lot of players where you just look at this list and you're a bit like, everyone we've loaned out, everyone we've loaned in or kind of recalled, do they have a long-term future at the club? And I'm still very unsure about that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that's going on. I think it was Dujan Richards as well went to Leicester City. I think very, very, very late into the window. I don't know if that's a permanent. It's on loan. Sorry, it's on loan. It's a loan. I think. I don't think there's an option. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, look, I still, if you had to rate our transfer window, someone asked me this question. We had to rate our transfer window out of 10, just the winter window, not the summer one. What are you giving it?
It's difficult because I haven't really seen much of Mamadou Sarr. He could be like the next, big thing to come out of Ligue 1, or he could also just be like another Disasi or Batiashil. So it's quite.
Let's hope not.
It's quite hard. Actually, it's quite funny you speak about. I know it's different. It's Mamadou Sarr, but do you remember Malang Sarr?
Yeah.
We had.
He was quite short though, wasn't he? He was.
Yeah, I think he's been played out left back or right back when he was a centre back at times, but he's been doing really, really well at Lens in Ligue 1. So maybe one that obviously sometimes is quite good. It's quite good not to be in a spotlight as often, but he's doing really
Mm,
well out in France. But yeah, if Mamadou Sarr's centre back signing or recall, and he does well, and he's able to maybe cement a good partnership alongside Chalobah or Fofana, and then I think it could be maybe potentially a good window. But then we just spoke at quite throughout this episode about not having much depth on the wings, so it is
mm.
quite a difficult one. But I'll give it a 4 out of 10 because I think nothing in this transfer window has excited me or made me think we look stronger as a team now that we're in February either.
I said last night I would give it a 2.
Mm,
I think the fact that we spent so much, which sounds like we spent so much time trying to sign Jeremy Jacquet for him to only to be given obviously more reassurances. He's been told he's going to play a lot more football. I think at the time we were trying to get, we had 8 centre backs on the books. Liverpool don't. So of course he's going to go to Liverpool. He's going to get more game time there, especially if Konate leaves in the summer as well. So I get it. But we spent so much time trying to get that deal done when again, going back and thinking in hindsight, but you think we could do maybe another midfielder. We probably knew at that point as well, especially deadline day. I think we would have known more so about Dário, Essugo, and Lavia that they weren't going to be fit enough to come back anytime soon. In the next couple of weeks, go and get yourself just even if it's a loan. I don't care if it's just a loan to the remainder of the season. Go and get something done. I think the fact that we've recalled Mamadou Sarr gave me a little bit of hope, but very much like you, I've watched him in the AFCON. I thought he played well, throughout some of the games for Senegal. Playing in the AFCON, and again, this is no disrespect to the AFCON, it's a completely different thing playing in the AFCON than it is to go and play against some of the top players in the Premier League. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I hope he gets game time. I'd be very, very annoyed if we record him and it's still Badia Shill. It's still, you know, the same lineup that we're seeing every week. Because I wouldn't. What's the point? You may as well have left him where he was and left Aaron Anselmino at Dortmund. So I gave it a 2. I think it's a 2 for me. I think I might bump it to 3 because we got Raheem Sterling off the books, and I think that was and that's not even a disrespectful thing to say. I just think 300 and something thousand pounds a week is just being hemorrhaged out the club every single week, and we're not even, again, we weren't even playing him. He was just training at 8 o'clock on his own. So I think maybe put up to a 3 because we've terminated the contract, but we still had to pay him up anyway. So what have we gained from it? We've just got a player out of Cobham. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a 2 for me. Definitely a 2.
yeah, it's a fair assessment. I think anything between a 2 or a 5 out of 10 could be like a good ranking. But yeah, it's like I said, it's nothing that really excites me going into this kind of difficult period of the season where every win matters. So yeah, and like I said, all the players that we've loaned out, the likes of Disasi, Fofana, Kendry Paez, for me, they're not players that have a future at the club. So it's
We
almost
would have
like,
missed them.
no, we would have missed them, and it's almost like, why are we just still learning them when we could potentially just, cut our ties and try to sell them? But also the fact no club is trying to buy them permanently means either their
Mm.
contracts are too long with Chelsea,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
or they don't value them as players as well.
Mm.
But yeah, let's see if Disasi can impress at West Ham to try to get himself a permanent move there, whether it's in the Championship or in the Premier League.
Well, I was speaking to some West Ham fans in the week, and they were saying that Max Kilman is probably the worst
Yeah,
defender that they've ever come across. I was like, you haven't seen Axel Disasi yet. Just give it some
yeah.
time, and you'll see. But I think their theory is that he was being played as a right back for us, and that's why he was playing so badly. But I was like, well, yes, he played. I think he played 14 games at right back for us. Even at centre back, it didn't change the narrative. The narrative is exactly the same. Unfortunately, he just isn't a good centre back for the Premier League. But we'll have to see. Maybe he might get some sort of stroke of luck at the London City Stadium, but I can't see it. The last thing I wanted to say about Mamadou Sarr, do you think he's been brought back, recalled, because BlueCo and sporting directors feel that his value might be slightly higher than Aaron Anselmino's, and in the summer, off the back of winning the AFCON, there might be some clubs sniffing around Mamadou Sarr if he plays well for us, this part of the season. Maybe they're thinking they could sell him for a nice, increased value in the summer.
Potentially. Yeah, potentially. I'd actually think of that. I was actually very confused initially when we we didn't keep Anselmino and we decided to keep Mamadou Sarr instead. And I think it was becoming more and more apparent that could have could be a reality when we never actually announced that we recalled Anselmino in the first place, whereas Dortmund announced it on their side a week before. But it could be that we're just trying to maybe increase his value, give him the minutes, and then potentially sell him. Because I recall we didn't sign him for that big of a fee. I think it might have been less than 20 million last summer, or the summer about January last year. But I think he's a favourite of Rosenior's, so maybe that also played a part.
It is worrying. I was saying it worries me about the next summer transfer window. I think Enzo Fernandez could be one of those players that's top of the list to go in the summer. I think he's been here long enough, hasn't won enough. Real Madrid, although they can't afford him apparently, but where they will find a way to get this deal done. I feel like he might leave in the summer, and I feel if we're not careful, we could lose the likes of Esteval, maybe even Cole Palmer. There's been obviously a lot of stories the last couple of weeks. I just worry that we'll lose a lot of quality. We could end up in a relegation battle. I'm gonna say it. I'll be honest. I look at the club, I look at the team, I look at the direction we've been in the last 3 or 4 years. No one's exempt from relegations. No club. There's been some bigger clubs than us that have gone down. So yeah, it worries me a little bit going into that summer window. The intentions, and we're hearing loads of briefs at the moment from the Athletic reporting that the club want to sign a centre back, a midfielder, and a striker in the summer. But we've heard this story before, and we end up with the dross of the castaways from certain clubs. So it does worry me a little bit going into this summer window after the World Cup. What are the intentions for the sporting directors?
You joke about relegation, but we have to remember Tottenham and Manchester United only just got out of the relegation.
Tottenham's still there now. You think about it.
They're still down there now, yeah. But about Enzo Fernandez, very last question on this kind of like transfer saga. If we were to sell him this summer, would his value be higher or lower than what we bought him in for from Benfica?
It wouldn't be lower. I don't think it'd be lower. I think it'd be higher. I think it'd be a lot higher than what we signed him for. And I think off the back of that, we're not a club. We wouldn't do the deal unless the deal was beneficial to Chelsea. He must have at least 5-6 years on his contract still. So I think if we sold him, it would have to be for a profit. The club has to. I mean, the club I was reading yesterday, the club committed to spending 1.7 billion, not just on transfers, but the stadium, the women's team, and the academy, and all the rest of it. And we've probably spent that alone just on transfers. So, and investors now are getting a bit itchy. Apparently, the investors at the club are starting to question a lot of things upstairs. So, I think if there's anything that's going to have to get investors back on board, get the fans back on board, although selling one of your best players probably doesn't do that, they're going to have to sell for a profit. I don't think they could. I think people would be ripping seats out of Stamford Bridge if we sold him for a deficit. What do you think?
No, I'd 100% agree. I think the only way I can see him leave the club is if PSG, Madrid, or maybe a Barcelona offered like a ludicrous amount of money for him. And I think he was part of those kind of 5 players that were seen as untouchable by Chelsea as well. So like I said, it would take a big transfer fee, an offer to kind of sway the heads of BlueCo to look to maybe sell him.
You throw the right amount of money in front of him, and there's no one that's no one is irreplaceable in this squad, unfortunately. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Let us know what you think about the transfers. What do we need to do in the summer to bolster our opportunities, really, our chances of trying to win the Premier League, the Champions League? Do you trust BlueCo and the sporting director to do that in the summer? Let us know what you think in the comment section. But let's move on. Let's move on because Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are in a relegation battle, we face them tomorrow, 3 p.m. This is what we rested all our players for midweek against Arsenal for, a relegation battling Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are... I don't want to disrespect them. I shouldn't be that bad to them. They are... I mean, Wolves... Yeah, I can be. Their form's ridiculous. I can. Yeah,
they're battling relegation. For me, they're already thinking about the championship. They sold Strand Larsen and they bought in, I think, was it Adam Armstrong, who for me is like the ultimate championship player. But
they've got a couple of games to make sure they don't do as bad as Derby County did a couple of seasons ago. I think they got 11 points one season. They're on 8 points currently, 1 win out of 24 for Wolverhampton Wanderers. I've got to be honest. I'm trying to understand and process in my head why we rested certain players for this game, because it's a game that on paper we should be resting players in this game. We should be resting Reece James, Esteval, Cole Palmer's, Moises Caicedo, whoever in this game, and still comfortably win it 3-0. You just mentioned some of the departures for Wolves, but are you expecting 3 points? Are you expecting us to go there and just turn Wolves over?
I think what an interesting thing I'm reading now is Wolverhampton Wanderers have won 5 points. Have won 5 points from 12 home games this season, with 3 of them coming in their last 3 matches at Molineux. So they have picked up a bit of form since they got rid of Victor Pereira and they brought in Rob Edwards. That being said, there should be no excuses. I think this team's already thinking about the championship, whereas we're still in contention for securing a top 4, top 5 finish. And I know they gave Arsenal a really good game at the Emirates. I know that they got a point at home against Tottenham Hotspur, but for me, we've got to be beating Wolves. I think we were 3-0 up at half time in the League Cup game we played against them back in October.
Yeah.
And somehow we made things really, really difficult for ourselves in that second half, and we only won the game 4-3 in the end.
Yeah, the
I think
Delap red card.
It took a Delap red card, and it took a Jamie Gittens screamer to win the game. But I think it'll be more difficult than we think. I think it'll be quite cagey. I think a lot of players, maybe heads would have dropped after that elimination against Arsenal. I'm not sure we didn't speak about it. Wesley Fofana was in tears at full time. So clearly, a few of the players would be quite distraught after that cup exit. But no side has failed to score in more Premier League games than Wolves this season. So they've gone 13 games this season without scoring. And their 2 clean sheets this season in Premier League have both come in their last 3 home games.
They're going to change it this weekend.
Be surprised. They will get a goal against us, and I do have a kind of a head-to-head against Wolves.
Yeah.
So we beat them 4-3 in the cup at Molineux this season. We beat them 6-2 in his fixture last season. I think it was when Madueke got a hat-trick.
Yeah.
But before that, we lost against them on, I think, Christmas Eve, 2003. We lost 2-1. We lost against them 1-0. I think that was Lampard's first game in charge when he took over from Graham Potter. And then we drew with them 0-0 back in, I think, January, was it December 2021?
Yeah.
So we don't have the best of records at the Molineux Stadium.
We don't.
But I think this season in particular, I don't think it's the same Wolves side. So for me, there's no excuses that we have to be getting 3 points here.
Yeah, I've just been looking at the head-to-head as well, and suddenly it's cast a shadow of doubt in the back of my mind. But no, I think it'd be interesting. Does Rosenior resort back to the norm of the 4-2-3-1 and playing how he's played pretty much most of the games he's had for us this season? It'd be interesting if he tries to change things. As we mentioned, there's been no Gittens now, Garnacho, Pedro Neto. You'd expect to potentially. Does he bring them back in and you revert back to Taipei? But look, I mean, this is for me. This is a game that if we don't win, I have to question the manager. Not even the players. Not even the players. The players, depending on how the game goes, maybe, but the manager, he cannot lose this game. Liam Rosenior cannot lose to Wolverhampton Wanderers, because there will be absolute chaos all weekend from Chelsea fans. I think, I mean, we know what we're capable of. We beat Napoli. We came back and we came back against West Ham at the weekend just gone. So we know what we're capable of. We can win games. We just don't do it the easy way. And I think that's what worries me. If we go 1-0 down and Wolves drop into this low block and they make it difficult, I feel like there's going to be a couple of players that will fail to break that down, or there'll be a bit of tension in the stadium, tension on the bench, tension with the players. That worries me a little bit. If they score first, I think it could be a bit of a problem for us.
Absolutely. They do have players that can hurt us. We mentioned, I think, Strand Larsen's departed the club. Joao Gomez, Andrey, Hee-Chan, Fer Lopez. I think Cresci has been looking quite good defensively. John Arias, they signed from Fluminense. I think he's looking to leave, and I've signed a pre-agreement with Palmeiras. But they've got a good squad on paper, but it's more the results on the pitch just haven't been there for them. But I just know that if we just have any lapses of concentration, they will score. I know for a fact they will score. We do invite these teams to score. I mean, West Ham were kind of we almost gifted them those goals, and we should have been in that position of being 2-0 down at half time, but we could very well easily find ourselves 2-0 down against Wolves at half time. We want to avoid being in that situation where we're chasing the game rather than having to kind of just hold on to a 2 or 3-0 lead ourselves.
And I think, it's good points. I think these next two games, I mean, you're talking about 6 points. If we're talking about trying to, all we really have to fight for now this season, yes, we're still in the Champions League, but I think if we're going to be honest, Chelsea fans, that is a very adventurous thing to try and go for based on how our season's gone so far this season. If we can get 6 points out of Wolves and Leeds, who are both there or thereabouts in terms of, the bottom half of the table, catapult ourselves up into the top four. For me, these two games, and then you obviously go into the FA Cup game, and then I think there's an international coming up in March at some point as well. So I feel like this is the key moments where Liam Rosenior has to. I'm not saying he has to. We don't have to go and win 6-0, but it has to be a controlled game where we're in control of the game. We know tactically that we might have to change things during the game. I'm happy to see us. I can't remember, was it Palace or West Ham where we went to 5 at the back? We scored when I feel like it was the West Ham game. He brought Badia Sheila on, I think. I'm happy to see things like that. If things aren't going well, bring on more attackers, be a bit more aggressive and go for it. I mean, this is probably the one game where you can sort of take the shackles off a little bit and just let the players just not do what they want. Because I mean, I've watched under-8s football most weekends. I'll see what happens when you do that. But just in terms of being able to let the players be a bit more freely. Esteval, if he plays, let him run, let him create something. I don't know. I'm starting to talk myself into this game, and I'm starting to doubt the game even more. If we had to predict a preferred lineup, your lineup, what would you go with in terms of goalkeeper to striker in this game? Do you rest certain players? Are you giving James the day off?
I think it's a big. I don't even know if James is training at the moment. I think maybe we'll get a better idea. I think maybe Rosenior is doing his press conference today. Or
no, he did it yesterday.
He did it yesterday. Okay, so maybe there's still 48 hours before the match to determine if Reece James and Neto will be fit. Considering they are fit, I think we have to go with our strongest 11. We have to go back to basics and play with a back four as well. I think we'll go with Sanchez, we'll go with Cucurella, we'll go with Chalobah and Fofana. I think it's still too soon for maybe Mamadou Sarr, perhaps. I think maybe I would play him. I would play him in that Hull City game, maybe.
Mamadou Sarr, you wouldn't start him. Oh no.
Would you start him
I'd start
in this game? Or
I'd start him.
You would?
I think this game is a game where you test. Well, I'll let you finish first.
No, maybe I'm changing my mind now. But
I just think I think at this point, well, maybe you're right. Maybe this first game is a bit too much, but I think at what point is the right moment to bring him in and integrate him into the team? And I don't think at this point in the season, maybe like you say, maybe that whole game, but that's a game Liam Rosenior's not going to want to lose because he's obviously got history with them. I think he'll play a very strong squad there and try and win the FA Cup now this season. So I would like to see him have minutes before that whole game. I think is my thing, my theory.
We play Leeds as well on Tuesday, which is only 3 days later. And for me, that Leeds game is trickier than this one.
I wouldn't start him in that game. I think it's going to be a physical game at Stamford Bridge.
Do you know what? I would go with Chalobah and Mamadou Sarr as the centre backs. Actually, I just feel
twisted your arm.
Just seeing Fofana cry maybe at full time. Maybe he's just not got the right mentality to maybe play back to back. And then I would go with Reece James, given that he's fit. I would go with. Yeah, I would go with.
So you're going for a back four? No, you're not.
Yeah, back four. Yeah. I don't want to see Liam Delap. I know we haven't really mentioned him a lot on this episode, but for me, just he's been so ineffective. He struggles. I would go with João Pedro as a striker, which would mean I would have Caicedo and Enzo. I would have Cole Palmer as the 10, and I would have Neto and Garnacho on either side. Oh, sorry, I've got Esteval.
Esteval, yeah.
But I mean, I would have Esteval and Neto, which I think is what we started with against Palace. I think
so. Esteval on the right, Neto on the left.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. My team wouldn't be too. I think James will be rested, even if he's fit enough to play. I don't think he'll start. I think Tuesday's game is going to be. I don't want to say it's going to be a more difficult game because I think this Wolves game I've taught myself into it. I think it'd be a difficult game if they sit back and we have to try and break them down. Um, but I think we'll need Reece James in that game on Tuesday, and I think Malo Gusto, who did not have a good game against Arsenal at all in any stretch of the
No,
imagination, but I think he'll probably start. And another player, actually, no, I'm going to take back my words. I want to see Josh Ashiempong.
I was
I
going to
want to.
mention his name. Yeah.
I want to see. We stopped him from sort of. I think he was linked with a move away in the window. It was very light, like news. It wasn't like a concrete news story, but he was linked with certain things, and he's been told he's got a role at Chelsea. Well, let's put proof to the pudding. Let's put him in the team. Very good, versatile. Can drop into that midfield, invert into the from a right back into the midfield. I'm going to go Josh Ashiempong. Trevor Chalobah's very mixed bag of defenders. Trevor Chalobah, Mamadou Sarr, who I think prefers to play on the left as well, left-sided
Okay.
centre back,
Hmm.
and Marc Cucurella as the back four. I'm agreeing with you. Moises Caicedo, Enzo, I think, in the two in the midfield. I'm going Estevao on the right. I'm going Pedro Neto and I'm going João Pedro up front. I think that has to, for me, that has to just be, the front has to be like that. I like Garnacho. I think he shows spells, like we said, but I just think in these kind of games, you need, if they are going to sit back Wolves, which I think they will,
Mm.
you need someone who's going to be able to at least attempt to break them down. And I think Estevao, like you said earlier, will do that. Neto can do that, but he doesn't do it often enough. And I think we need to see more of that in this game tomorrow.
100%. I think I mentioned it before. It's Neto and Garnacho as the wingers to struggle against low blocks. So if we have an Estevao who can just create something, Cole
Yeah.
Palmer in a 10 as well, then I think we've got a chance. Some breaking news actually. The Chelsea youth team just drew Real Madrid in the
Yeah.
UEFA Youth League last 16. That's going to be a big game. But they beat PSV Eindhoven on penalties midweek as well, didn't they?
Yeah. It's coming up here now as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Congratulations to them. It's a big thing. It's a massive thing for them. Brilliant achievement. Yeah, I going back to Wolves, I think it's not going to be as easy as I think we first thought about.
No.
I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think they're going to try and sit back, hit us on the counter. If we don't win this, have you got question marks about Liam Rosenior if he doesn't win this game? Because I feel like, I know it's early in his career. I think he's won 6 out of 8. I think, hasn't he? He's only lost to Arsenal twice. I think every other game he's won. It's very early in his career, so I'm not saying he's like sacking or nothing like that. But are you questioning tactically if he's up to the job?
I think you always get little blips, but for me, what I want to avoid with Rosenior is having a really good first month like Graham Potter did,
Yeah,
and
the
then
10 matches.
things just go completely downhill, and it's the beginning of the end. And I really hope that Arsenal midweek game isn't the beginning of the end and a catalyst for an ongoing kind of run of poor results. And I feel like if we can bounce back, get a win against Wolves, which I think we will, and I hope we will, then I think hopefully we can go into those games against Leeds, Hull City, and Burnley before we take on Arsenal at the Emirates again in March with a lot more confidence and a lot more kind of idea of what Rosenior's best kind of tactics and best 11 is as well, because I still think he doesn't really have a good idea of that best 11 either.
Well, he said yesterday in his press conference he doesn't believe in best 11s.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's why I asked the question, because I think he worries me a little bit when he talks in the press conferences. He speaks very freely, which is not a bad thing at all. But I think sometimes it goes from like being really positive to having a bit of brain fog and just doesn't really come out with. I mean, you've got to have a best 11. You have to have one, whether you want to agree that that's your best 11 or you want to say it out publicly. You have to have a team that if you're in the Champions League final, this is your team. We should be able to name your best 11 for you because it's just the best 11 that we've got at the club. Of course, you tweak it. You bring out players, you drop players in, but the best 11, this isn't just Premier League, Chelsea. This is conference, National League football. You have to have a best 11. So that worries me when he said that yesterday in the press conference.
Yeah, there's something else that worries me slightly. I was kind of all for it at the start, but he's very, very almost too complimentary towards his players, always praising them, always saying how fantastic, how unbelievable they are, which is good because you want the players to grow in confidence. But
Yeah,
there are
but
times sometimes where
you
these
got to
players must
criticize
feel
them.
like, yeah, it's got to be constructive criticism. You've got
Yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of
100%.
always let them know that they
There's
can improve, they
there's
can get
another level.
better.
There's another
There's another
level.
level. Exactly. And like when Gittens got injured, he was saying how fantastic he is, how unbelievable a player he is, and which is good because I guess in a way he's going to be out for 2-3 months, and he might want to feel like the manager's got his backing.
It's an
But
arm around the shoulder thing, isn't it? Where you sort
yeah,
of
but yeah, at times like after one training session, saying how he's never worked with such world class players and how he's he's seen things on the training pitch that he's never seen before, and I'm a bit like, okay, this is good, but at the same time, like, get your feet back on the ground.
get
You
the
are at Chelsea
results,
now.
get the
This
3
is the
points.
reality. This is yeah. Get the results. Get the 3 points. Get 3 points at Molineux tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then you can compliment the players.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, you're right. I think that's the thing. Even like complimentary to like other managers, is, and again, there's no right or wrong. If that's how you feel, speak freely. But I remember when he first come in and he said like Pep's my idol, and before we played Napoli, he was like, Maradona was one of the best footballers. Both things can be true, but you're Chelsea, you're the head coach of Chelsea Football Club, so don't always say those things out in public. Just yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just one of these critical. I want him to do so well that I don't want him to put a foot wrong, especially in the media, because the media's waiting for Rosenior to do something where they can sort of criticize him till they can't criticize him anymore. And I can see that already with the back pages this morning. So we'll have to see. But score predictions, what are we going for?
I think we'll win, but I think it's going to be a very cagey, narrow win with a lot of goals, similarly to the League Cup fixture we had in October. I'm going to go with 3-2 Chelsea.
I hope not. I hope not. Especially with Mamadou Sarr in that backline. I would like to think, and obviously we haven't got the greatest record. I think we've won twice in the last, well, take away the cup game, but I think in the league we've won twice in the last 5, I think. So I'm gonna go 2-0 Chelsea before anyone questions what side I'm. 2-0. I think we should have enough. But as I say, on every post and pre-match, it's all about the team that we put out and how we tactically manage that game. If we don't manage it properly, and we try and just throw the kitchen sink at everything every single time, then it's never going to always work. But yeah, 2-0.
Yeah, because I think it was Rosenior and the players said almost tactics went out the window when we were kind of like trying to get that third goal against West Ham. Yeah. We don't want to be in a situation where we're just having to just throw everything at the
against Wolves.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in that situation against Wolves. So hopefully it's a comfortable 2-0, 3-0 win, and we can then just enjoy the rest of the fixtures and the Sunday games as well.
Yeah. And hopefully Wolves fans are not watching this, because I think I've said about 5 times Wolves and sort of pulled that face. Wolves, I hope you stay up. I've got a couple of Wolves mates who support Wolves, so I hope you stay up, but not at the cost of us getting 3 points tomorrow. So let's see how that goes. But Theo, as always, pleasure. I was going to say you enjoyed the game. You won't be going. Or are you going?
No,
I don't know.
I came close to going. Some tickets became available. I reached out, and then the guy I reached out to was out of office. The guy who looks after my season ticket. And then when he messaged me back yesterday, they're all sold out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Madueke does have bad things to say about Wolverhampton, so maybe I'll go, do I want to go there, actually?
I can actually vouch and say that Madueke was 1000% correct in what he said. We're going to leave the pod there before we get in trouble. Theo, thank you very much for joining me as always. Thank you for everyone who's been watching, listening. Make sure you get your comments in the comment section below. Linktree link is in the description as well. We'll be back next week with the podcast. Enjoy the weekend. 3 points hopefully for Chelsea this weekend. Let's hope we can get the win.